Heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I want to bring in my girl, Kate. Kate, how you doing this evening? Besides being muted.
I'm good. I am coming to you from Gina and Steve's time zone. I am on the Pacific Coast, not in Florida, in a hotel room. So here we are.
Yeah. Speaking of which, next we have got our producer Gina's going to be on tonight. Hey Gina, how you doing?
Hi, I'm so excited to talk about, my favorite topic, Star Wars. So
Yeah.
it's a day after Halloween, so it might be a quick show.
Yeah, especially for the teachers. And we were talking earlier, and we'll bring Steve in on this one. Go ahead and bring in Steve in. Steve, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. It's been a day, but
Yeah.
Hi, tuners.
And how the three of us teachers were talking, this needs to be a national holiday.
100%
Because
off.
No teachers should be forced to work the day after Halloween.
And parents need to deal with their kids.
Parents need to suffer the consequences of the sugar.
Exactly.
And lastly, tonight we've got Pete. Pete, good to see you.
Hey everybody, since it's November 1st, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yay!
And we just lost Pete for the show, and Pete will not be returning to us because, no.
Happy Life Day. How about that one?
We have all
Star Wars.
a full tuners today.
We do have a full crew
All
today.
5 of us.
Yay.
Crazy.
The whole platoon.
Yes. Now, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share, get the word out, because we're all here. We want everyone else here also. So, guys, we've got a core group of fans that have been listening to us now for weeks. Tell your friends. Tell them why you like us. Tell them, and then don't tell them why you don't like us. Tell us why you don't like us so we can get better.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yes. Kate, back where she belongs. What do we have for the Disney Plus news this week?
Yes. So just a couple things on Disney Plus news. Disney Plus subscribers are being given first access to exclusive merchandise on Shop Disney. These include Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar items that are new to the website. From a marketing perspective, that's kind of genius.
Until you realize on some of them, there was no limit on how many you could buy, and a bunch of it's already sold out.
Great.
Oh, no. So they pulled in annual pass holders.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate
People
that.
are stupid.
And last but certainly not least, Paul Bettany will reportedly be returning as Vision in a Disney Plus series, Vision Quest.
I like this idea, because he'd be as White Vision, basically dealing with all of Vision's thoughts, and because he has all of Vision's memories from WandaVision. And one of the things that in talking with Micah, that there are times that he can almost time travel.
Ooh.
And is able to. So it's going back and making the decision, kind of reliving some of the decisions that he had to make.
Oh, wow.
So, could be interesting to see.
Is it supposed to be live action or animated?
Live action.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that one, because it's a character we haven't heard much. We literally don't know much from, and he was, kind of the moral center of WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very cool. Yay.
Okay, as Gina has said, this week we are diving into the Star Wars universe with Tales of the Jedi. This was a set of 6 cartoons, 3 of which dealt with kind of a backstory of Ahsoka, and 3 of which dealt with the backstory of Count Dooku. So yeah, it was animated, and it went like 156 was Ahsoka and 234 was Dooku, and it was, kind of interesting. I'm going to start with Steve on this one because as one of the fellow non-Star Wars nerds, were these tales worth telling? Were these stories worth having a show over?
I like backstories. I like that genre, so I did enjoy it. I know later we're going to discuss a little bit more about it, but I like the backstories about where it comes from. I know we talked about that with Andor, like, well, we know the ending, but I liked seeing where people came from, so I found it very enjoyable. I didn't know a lot about the characters, so there's some things where I had to quickly be pulling up my phone, doing some research so I could understand what was happening. But overall, I like the backstories. The animation, since this was sort of my first sort of Star Wars animation, that took a little while to get used to. Like certain characters, like who is that?
Yeah.
And then I'm doing some voice things. Like I think Kate and I were talking about. One of them sounded like Snape. Snape goes to Star Wars land.
Yep. Yep. In fact, if I hadn't known that Alan Rickman has passed away, I would have been like, get out of
Ooh.
here. Look at Alan Rickman showing up. But yeah.
But what do you think, Pete?
Well, I enjoyed it. I did think it was, I'll call it maybe a deep dive, in that I think I could imagine that if you weren't someone that really watched Clone Wars, that it might be a little confusing. The 3 tales about Count Dooku, actually, in Clone Wars, we don't really find anything of his backstory. So I think watching that, or watching even just episodes 2 and 3, either way, you're okay if you haven't seen Clone Wars. But the Ahsoka stuff, I think it helped to have seen Clone Wars. But I don't know. It was okay. It didn't seem particularly necessary, but it was a nice little diversion. I mean, it it's only 6 episodes. They're not half-hour long episodes. They varied between about 10 minutes, and maybe there was a couple that were like 16, 18 minutes. So I thought it was neat. I thought it was neat to have that little bit of backstory. What about you, Derek?
I like the Dooku ones better than the Ahsoka ones, just because I've not done all the animated series, so Ahsoka doesn't mean much to me, other than her brief appearances in The Mandalorian. But the Count Dooku, knowing where he was in episodes 2 and 3, seeing how he got there, going from Jedi to Sith Lord, was kind of interesting. Especially when you see how truly evil he was there, and merciless he was at the end of episode 4. And, the 4 of us got to watch Kate's reaction to him at the end of episode 4.
Yeah.
And it was one of those
Shock.
frozen, mouth open, shocked look.
Shocked.
Did he just do that? Seriously?
And he did.
As Pete said, the episodes were short. Took about an hour to hour 15 out of my life, and it was okay. Kate?
Yeah. So full disclosure to everybody, I was only able to watch the first 4 because I have not had access to Disney Plus, as I was in another country where you can't watch Disney Plus. So I just a couple hours got back, and Disney Plus didn't want to load for a hot minute. So when it finally did, I had like a very short amount of time. So I watched as much as I possibly could. I liked it. I didn't hate it. I liked the animation. The whole thing gave me, I don't know if any of you have watched any of the Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it gave me Avatar: The Last Airbender vibes, especially the first episode with baby Ahsoka.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think of all of the ones that I watched, that was my favorite. I also really like what they can do with animation, in having the baby Ahsoka gives so much emotion without saying anything, and have the tiger, bear, lion thing give emotion without saying. Like, that really had me kind of riveted the whole time. The other ones, I was still watching, I was still paying attention, but they didn't hold my attention. I also am not a diehard Star Wars fan. I'm much more of a Marvel fan. I find Marvel much easier to understand than Star Wars. But I enjoyed these. I thought they were good. I'm probably going to watch the last 3, even though now I don't really have to because we're already talking about it. But I'm very curious to see where they go. You all already know, but yeah. So Gina, you go.
So these were not for the layperson Star Wars here today, gone tomorrow fan who watches the movies. They weren't. This was a love letter from Dave Filoni to me personally. He wrote this letter and he said, "Dear Gina, I'm in your brain because I know you want to know the inside out for Ahsoka because Ahsoka show's coming out and you want to know where we're going to start it." So I really felt like that's where we're going to start Ahsoka, is right after this Execute Order 66. And I think that's where they're going to start her story. The other part, the Count Dooku, Qui-Gon, hello, look who I've got back here. I always love that character who's so torn between good and evil. And it shows Dooku struggle a little bit with Qui-Gon once Maul killed him. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, Dave. You explained this to me. So was Dooku doing, he was evil, obviously, but he still loved his apprentice. And that was like, oh my goodness, you still got these full characters. Anyway, so no, were these tales worth telling for the regular people? Absolutely not. Were these tales worth telling for us? Yes.
Now wait a minute, because I consider myself a regular Star Wars fan. But
you thought it was worth it?
Yeah, I mean, again,
would you seek these out if you didn't have a podcast? Would you be like, "Ooh, I need to see the tales of the Jedi"?
Need to see, no, but if I had an extra hour, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I've liked some of the other. I haven't liked all the other Star Wars stuff, but I liked the anime ones.
Oh, those were cool. Yeah,
those were cool. I mean, these are towards. I mean, even if you're a Mandalorian fan that's been pulled in, I would say that these fit into that group of Star Wars fans. Because to me, that's not you and Pete having gone through all of Bad Batch, all of the Clone Wars.
Rebels, all
everything.
of Rebels.
Yeah, that is a whole nother level. I consider myself an average Star Wars fan where I've seen the movies. I like the movies. I can talk enough about the movies to make myself not sound stupid. But
well, that's good to know that these were worth telling for the average person, because I watched this going, this is for me. He got in my brain and was like, hey, dear Gina, this is for you.
That does bring up another interesting point. And Pete kind of brought that up here a little bit ago.
And I think Kate has a comment.
Go ahead, Kate.
Well, it's just got me thinking, because you were talking about, Gina and Pete being very like that this was for like the diehards. Has there been anything like that? So let me back up. Derek, would you say that that's how I am with Marvel since I'm watching through all of it?
You will be by the end.
Yeah, I think you're deep. Yeah. I think you're deep in, everything.
So my question is, what is the Marvel equivalent of this show?
I think watching all the TV stuff.
Okay, that's fair.
Especially the older
TV stuff is the equivalent of watching all of the
Clone Wars,
the Clone Wars, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I would say this honestly, the Marvel thing that this reminded me the most of was WandaVision, because you didn't have to go. You could miss an episode of WandaVision and still be okay. You could only see half of this and still be okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This wasn't as good as WandaVision. But
okay.
So what I'll say is that, to me, that in general, the Star Wars animation is more for the diehards. But what they did here is, instead of having the Clone Wars, which is 130 episodes or whatever long and would take you 70 hours to sit through, they gave you an animated story that you could sit through in an hour. So in that way, I think that's why it would appeal to people like Steve and Derek and Kate versus trying to sit through the entire Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
You would say this is not too much of an inside look at the characters that you.
Well, I think, as I said, I think with Dooku, I think with Dooku, it works pretty well as not too much of an inside look, because we don't, even in Clone Wars, you don't really
you don't
know much about him other than he's leading the Separatists and he's working for
Palpatine.
Sidious.
Palpatine. And even though I don't think he knows he's working for Palpatine there, I think he just
knows
thinks
Darth
he's,
Sidious.
he just
Yeah,
thinks he's
Darth Sidious,
Sidious.
Yeah.
But so I think that, you know, as said, if you're just like a movie person, I think that those three are pretty good. The Ahsoka ones, especially the last two, maybe might make a little more sense if you've seen Clone Wars, in terms of, you know, what she, because there's a lot of story on Ahsoka in the animation, and there's almost nothing in live action, right? Until she showed up.
Yeah, and she's with him the whole time in Clone Wars. So
With Anakin, yeah.
Right. She, I mean, she's really one of the main characters of Clone Wars, with her and Anakin and Obi-Wan, I would say, are the three really main characters of Clone Wars, and again, 100 and some episodes. So you know, the real more diehard fans know who she is. I do think this was a decent introduction to her. I mean, that little childhood, the first episode, I think works for everybody, that you don't need to know anything other than Ahsoka's eventually going to be somebody. And as I said, for 5 and 6, it's a little more inside Star Wars knowledge. But I mean, you guys said that, you know, you still enjoyed it. So I don't think it is too much of an inside look.
Okay, I will say the one thing out of especially episode 5, it took me a while to figure out that was Anakin. It's who, you know, the scar on the face. I'm going, why is Ben Solo there? Okay, I wasn't really, but I knew.
I didn't realize it was Anakin until you all said, "Oh, the one with Anakin," and I was like, "Oh, that was Anakin." Okay,
Yeah, that was Anakin.
Cool.
And it's the same.
You didn't see that one yet.
And it's the same voice actor. It's the same voice actor that did the Clone Wars. They're all the same voice actors, actually, except Liam Neeson himself.
Wasn't that the second one?
No,
that was 5.
No.
Oh, okay. Well then, okay.
Second one is Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon. Okay, that was what I thought. And then
Yeah. So I had to stop and do some searching about the Jedi Master and Padawan like family tree to put it all together.
Please tell me that actually exists.
There are websites out there that show it all. Because I'd say like I'm above Derek, like a little bit higher than an average Star Wars fan, but I haven't watched any animated stuff. But these episodes got me intrigued that I need to go back and get the rest of the story. So
yeah, Gina and I have talked a few times that we should like come up with a Clone Wars primer, like 10 or 15 episodes, be like, okay, watch these. Well, because a lot of Clone Wars is multi-episode
stories.
Arcs.
Yeah, they're all arcs, and they just focus on Rex. They focus on Rex, Anakin,
and a lot of them you really don't need to see, but there are a couple of them, and again, but they're 3 or 4 episode arcs, so I can't really say just watch these 3 or 4 episodes. But yeah, you could definitely get a lot of the important stuff out of Clone Wars in much less than 130 some episodes.
Probably more like 40. Yeah, 40 episodes.
I will also say
I think you do under 20.
As I was watching through it, I was so glad that every episode was not like the first episode. To me, the first episode was one of those, yes, we get it. She's a baby. She's force sensitive. It reminded me of Boba Fett riding the Rancor. I mean, it was just one of those. It was one of those type moments. It was just one of those. It's, I don't know. Kate, did you think this was too deep, or did you, were you okay with it?
No. Well, again, I didn't see the last two or three.
Right,
I don't know how many. I saw 4.
2. Yeah,
okay, cool.
2.
No, because as I was watching until the one with, what was her name? Tattles?
Yaddle.
Oh no. Okay, Yaddle.
Yoda.
I like
Yoda.
Until that one, I really thought that I was like Ahsoka and then Qui-Gon. I was like, oh, these are like little snippets of origin stories. They're not too long. I like that. I like that you get just a little taste. And for someone who a lot of stuff went over my head. There were probably so many Easter eggs in it that made Gina's mind explode that I might have been like, oh, okay. Like,
Sure.
I don't know what that means, but that's okay. I don't think so, because I think Gina was right, and it Steve, I don't remember who said it. Did Pete say it? Did Steve say it? I don't remember. Because I can't remember who said it about that this was for the more diehards. I like that they produced something.
I said it, yeah.
Gina said it. I like that they produced something for the diehards. I like that exists, because it's not for everybody, but it is like a sweet little love letter to. Oh yeah, that is it. Gina said that. A sweet little love. So I didn't think so. I liked it.
Yeah. And too much, again, it could be too much for people to, but it's not the Dooku, like Pete said, I agree with that. The Dooku portion was so well told. We didn't know anything. I didn't know that he was so attached to Qui-Gon. You never knew about Qui-Gon. Doesn't even talk about him because he dies in episode 1. So you don't even know that they were master and apprentice. So that was cool. That's the only ad I have. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Okay. Did Qui-Gon's death jump? Did that happen between episodes 3 and 4, or did it happen like in the middle of episode 4?
In the middle of episode 4, I think.
Because he showed up at the beginning of 4, and then all of a sudden he was dead, and so
right.
there was nothing to tell me that time had passed.
Yeah. So the beginning of episode 4 was in the middle. The beginning of episode 4 of this show was in the middle of episode 1 of Phantom Menace,
right?
Where they travel back to Coruscant with young Anakin, and they haven't gone back to Naboo yet. So that's
and on
when
Tatooine they encountered Darth Maul.
Yeah.
That's where I said it was a little too much. I had to stop and pause and do some Star Wars timeline to figure out where things were happening, and then gets the mention of some, like I said, some characters. Because at first Dooku, I'm going, who's that? Until I Google, went, okay, now I know who you're referring to. But it got me more intrigued. Now I want to go watch Clone Wars to put it all together.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Kate, I'm going to actually let you start this next one, just because you brought up Baby Ahsoka. Should these 6 episodes have been animated, or should they have got the actors and made this live action?
Nope. I think it was great animated. I think live action, I think it would have, well, I mean, let's just look at like She-Hulk and CGI. Like, we don't need that kind of we don't need that kind of negativity in our lives, Derek. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But no, I think that this needed to be animated. I think this was great how they did it. I wouldn't have changed it. And I feel like it would have, needed to be animated. You go, Gina.
I agree. The other thing is, again, it's the love letter to us. And these are all the original voice actors that were in the Clone Wars. Ashley Eccleston, and we had Matt Lanter, who plays Anakin, and then Liam Neeson was not in the animated series, but he did play Qui-Gon Jinn, which I thought was amazing.
Okay. Did Ian McDermott do the Emperor in
no,
the
not
animated? Because he was in this.
He was in this, yes.
Yeah.
But he did not in the Clone Wars.
He did not. Okay. He did not. So he did Rebels, I think. Anyway, he's in something. He did something, but not the Clone Wars original. So that's what I loved, is that if it was not animated, we couldn't get those actors. It wouldn't be the same. Anyway, Steve, what about you?
Probably animated. I think live action would miss something. So, like I said, it was first time really watching something Star Wars animated. So sort of for that first experience, but I enjoyed it. So I watched it all in one afternoon.
That's right. You didn't get the joy of Bad Batch.
I like Bad Batch.
No. So what do you think?
I'm going to be contrarian. It would have been interesting if they could have done this live action. It's just little short episodes, and the thing that's tough about it is, like, do you get Samuel L. Jackson back as Mace Windu for the scene, and some of those other people? That would be the tough part about it. but it kind of would have been cool if they did. But I mean, I was fine with it as animated. I mean, it is definitely tied into Clone Wars, 100%, and Clone Wars is animated, so it makes sense. I'm a little surprised they did a little bit different animation style than Clone Wars. It doesn't really match, but yeah, I wouldn't have mind seeing a live action, but it doesn't surprise me that they did it animated, because as I said, and especially stuff like this that's very more for the fans than for the big general
Cinematic
populace,
people.
I think. Yeah.
And speaking as one of the cinematic general populace, please make this live action. Please make this live action, because that's what I'm used to. That's what I'm used to. Please make it. I want to see Samuel L. Jackson, because I certainly didn't hear him. So
That's the voice actor that plays Mace Windu
Who
in the Clone
cares?
Wars.
But who cares? If you're going for the general population, we want Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu.
Right.
I mean, the man who could determine he was the only one to ever have a purple lightsaber. I
Yeah.
mean, come on, because it's Samuel L. Jackson. But I want to see, Christopher Lee. I want to see Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Please let me see her as Ahsoka, even as a younger Ahsoka, because they've shown that they can de-age people well. You just can't turn people into mutants. Sorry, Hulks. But because I would say that the CGI in Star Wars, even in all of the, and thing is, Star Wars does so many more practical effects. Much more of their makeup is practical.
Yeah.
And you got to practice, because is the Ahsoka series that's coming out going to be live action?
Yes.
Thank you.
Warren's going to be in it.
What?
Warren, my friend, he's going to be in it.
Yeah. So I know I will agree with Pete on this one. This should have been, for the general fan, this should have been live action. Yes, the first one with the baby Ahsoka riding the whatever, fine. But for the rest of it, I want to see real people doing this stuff because if I'm the general fan, I haven't seen anything else animated. So the animated kind of throws me off, especially the animation style. And
I will say, like Clone Wars, like the animation is especially early on, very, very strange, and it's kind of hard to watch.
It is hard to watch the first season.
So I can see that as well as being an issue. So maybe Kate can't answer this, but just out of curiosity, we had 3 Ahsoka episodes, 3 Dooku episodes. For this, I guess this is mostly for Steve and Derek. Did you prefer one set over the other?
I think I liked the Count Dooku more, because I think that's just more interesting, especially when I quickly learned that I didn't know that he had been a Jedi before. I hadn't made that connection until I did that. And when you look at the family tree, all the connections of how they're all interconnected, to me, that just fascinates me. Like Ahsoka being connected to Anakin, being connected to Yoda, that was just fascinating.
Yeah, Jedi family tree doesn't fork much.
No.
But I would agree. I liked the Dooku episodes because I knew who Dooku was. I didn't know who was. I've seen her in I've even seen her in The Mandalorian, or were those even Boba Fett episodes? I think those
were Boba Fett.
No, she was in one Mandalorian episode, season 2, and then she was in one or two of the Boba Fett episodes. Yeah,
but I didn't really know who she was, so I connected more with the Dooku ones. It would have been nice if early on they would have said his name, so I didn't have to figure it out.
Yeah, I have to guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Ahsoka episodes were fine. The Ahsoka episodes were more confusing to me because they never actually said Anakin's name. Ever. They never said that was Anakin.
Right.
Oh.
So
you had to have prior knowledge to know that.
Or you had to figure out that when he really made the connection when he sat down with Obi-Wan. That kind of helped make that connection there. But other than that, it's one of those, is that Anakin? Because I think I remember Gina saying Anakin trained her.
Yeah. And that's true. If you hadn't watched Clone Wars, you wouldn't necessarily even know that Anakin was her
or that Anakin was around
trainer.
I mean, even. So Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that was Tales of the Jedi. Next week, we are jumping back into the vault, and we are jumping back in time, going to Club Cool and the Cool Zone in Tomorrowland for Flight of the Navigator. We are
Wow.
it's a movie that I know Pete and Gina definitely grew up on. I honestly didn't see until a little bit later. Steve, I'm not sure when you first experienced, and I think I might have seen Flight of the Navigator all the way through once. Kate, have you ever seen it?
Huh. Unless it was like on in the Disney Vault late at night, if it was on, because I
Yeah.
watched those movies,
Not,
but I
I-
don't
not even as
really
much.
remember it.
It wasn't. It was more on. It wasn't on because it wasn't a decom. It was a movie. It was a theatrical
No,
event.
not a decom. I'm talking about when they would show like Zorro and the Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh no, it was
No.
not that old.
It was on
Yeah.
during the day a couple times during the like a summer. It was on during the day a few times on the original
No.
Disney Channel. But
No, I don't
I
think I
probably
saw
saw
it.
it on VHS if I remember at some point. So if it's the
Yeah,
one I'm
probably.
thinking of,
either VHS or Betamax. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you said it's actually
it's mine.
maybe a little too old.
Yeah,
Or I was a
too
little
young.
too old.
Yeah, I was perfect because I was the same age as the kid.
Yeah. And I was a little
because
too
it came
young.
out in like 87, I want to
86.
say 86.
okay.
I
And
was
by 86,
16.
87, this would have been
Yeah.
a scary for a 6-year-old, 5 or 6-year-old me. This would have been probably a little too scary for me.
Yeah, I was 11. I remember it was a summer. I was 11. It was me. I was that kid. It was perfect for me.
I mean, I think I saw it at the time, but it was probably a little too. It skewed a little too young for
Yeah,
me. That
it was
it
Perfect.
it didn't go into heavy rotation.
Yeah.
By that point, I was watching like Terminator and.
We saw those too.
Yeah, a little bit
But
different.
this was,
Yeah.
this was a perfect summer movie for
So
the
I
11-year-old.
did watch it just a couple years ago, but I will definitely
I have
rewatch
to
it
rewatch
for. I gotta download it for my trip because I'm heading to Florida in 2 days.
Hey, wait, me too.
I'm not.
I am not either.
No.
I'll be here.
Me too.
Sunny
right.
California. Okay.
Guys, if you have stuff coming up, we've got Thanksgiving coming up, we've got Christmas coming up. If you have stuff that you'd like us to review, have suggestions for us, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. Message us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We will answer everything. And please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, send carrier pigeons, send smoke signals. I don't care. Let people know that you like us. And yeah, it's been such a great episode having everyone back. Kate, welcome back. Even, glad you made it back from Mexico. And with
Me
that,
too.
Pete, we will see you next week from Florida. Kate, we will see you next week from Florida. The rest of us will be in our own boring lives. And
Actually, no, you won't. You'll see me in New Hampshire.
Oh,
I'll go to Kate's house and record, and then Kate can
Yep.
go to Buffalo. No, just kidding.
I'll be here
Yep.
in California, but I'm going to Disneyland this weekend. Dapper days for us.
Oh no, wait!
Ooh.
I'm going to Illinois. I don't know where I'm going to be, but I'm not going to be in Orlando.
okay, fair enough.
Anyway,
All right.
see you next week.
Night,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
See you next week.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.